Hey guys, welcome back to Deandra JK and K. My name is Deandra, and today we are going to be looking at the BTS Beyond the Story book. So this actually came out 2 years ago in 2023. I'm just now getting my hands on it because I had a sale at Barnes and Nobles in one of these Barnes and Nobles, and I just said, I'm gonna go ahead and get this book. I was reluctant when I heard they came out with a book in 2023 because I felt like I already knew the group. But when I went to the back of the book, I saw that the summary had said, "We are getting inside details that nobody truly knows and inside accounts from the members." So I just went ahead and picked it up. I don't know if you guys seen my teeny weeny album, my teeny weeny Arirang album, but that is where I got this bookmark from. It's a Arirang symbol, so that's really cool because I can use my BTS bookmark in a BTS book, which was not the intended use, but it kind of worked out that way, so that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to treat this like a book club. If you guys want to read along with me and share your thoughts down below, feel free to do that. So this book covers a 10-year record of BTS. My plan is to go chapter by chapter and just recap with you guys what I learned from each chapter. I took down some notes and I just want to discuss it here. This isn't going to be like a read aloud of me reading the entire book or, reading chapter by chapter with you guys, like reading each line. But this will just be a chat about my takeaways and thoughts around each chapter. So let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so the book starts out with each member coming in and their experiences as they're coming in to train under Big Hit. The first person they speak about is J-Hope. And then it goes into Suga and then RM, which I found interesting that they did it in that order. I thought it was cool to start with J-Hope because he has a very interesting story coming from Gwangju. But his account is that he was in Gwangju and he was under a hagwon, a dance hagwon, which if you guys aren't familiar with hagwons, they're basically like private schools and people pay a lot of money. It is a big business in Korea. They dish out a lot of money for education, and one way of doing that is through hagwons, private schools. So he went to a private dance school. So we're following his narrative as he finds out about Big Hit through his dance school. He decides to audition, and then eventually he gets to Seoul. Suga comes in second. His route to auditioning was because he found Bang Si-hyuk to be an amazing producer. Suga was already into the songwriting and producing gig. I mean, the man was working with software called MIDI. I don't know if they call it MIDI, but I want to call it MIDI, but I'm sure it's just MIDI. He is musically trained. He knows a lot of classical music because in his day, schools weren't really teaching specifically modern day music styles. So he would learn or major under, because I do believe this was in high school, he was focused on more classical training, which in American schools is the same. You can go into band, you can go into orchestra. They go more into the classical aspect of things. And then band is a lot more modern. Anyway, so I connected to him on that level because I myself was in marching band and jazz band. So when I learned that he was classically trained, I was like, oh, that's really cool. But also too, he has fundamentals of music knowledge. And that's very important for who Suga is today. The man can produce his butt off and he's good at it. And I learned what attracted Suga to do a big hit audition. What attracted him to do that audition was Bong Shi-hyuk, because Bong Shi-hyuk actually wrote the song for Tiara like the first time. Okay, so I'm going to be directly reading from Wikipedia, which I understand is not a reliable source. I don't even know if they still teach that in school. They should, because anybody can come in here and change things. But when we talk about Bong Shi-hyuk, I want to fully acknowledge the juggernaut that this man is. Hitman Bang, aka Bong Shi-hyuk, he has produced for, sorry if I mispronounce these names. Usually I get the Korean right, but if it's not actually in Hangul, I mess it up. Im Chang-jung, Park Ji-yoon, Rain, Wonder Girls, 2AM, Teen Top, and R&B singer Baek Ji-young. So in the book, we are reading a lot about his accolades. I had no idea that he created 2AM's popular song, Can't Let Go, Even If I Die. Apparently, back in their day, it was a massive hit. It got on, I believe, Gaon charts. So because of Bong Shi-hyuk's stardom within industries, you know, because this isn't like common knowledge. The average person probably doesn't know Bong Shi-hyuk. They know the artist that they see in front of the TV screen. But behind the scenes, when you pull back the curtain, you realize who's producing these hits. And that's Bong Shi-hyuk. And Suga was in the know. After that, RM, he enters the story. RM is my bias. I admire that man so much because he really had a hope and a dream. I admire his intelligence. So when RM enters the story, he is going back and forth from Ilsan to Hongdae, where he recalls Hongdae as being the closest he can get to hip hop, because that's where people are very artistic. That actually reminds me of when I went to Hongdae and I saw busking for the first time. And that's basically where I think a lot of college age students, they go out with their dance groups and they're dancing to popular songs. I think Hongdae is just that place. And even back then, when RM was younger, he would go there to get in close proximity with the artistry of hip hop and learn from a lot of the older people, people in the industry, people who mingled with people in the industry. So RM eventually auditions for Big Hit Entertainment in 2009. He was like 15, if I'm not mistaken. And when I was 15, I was not running to go get a job. Essentially, he was running to go get his dreams. But there are people that I did grow up with who was my age at the time, and they were starting that young to go get their dreams. And believe it or not, they did end up making it. So there are people who do run out and go get it. But it's just so interesting because you did that without your parents. And to have such initiative, usually parents are like cultivating that in you and they're pushing you to go. But because hip hop, especially in Korean culture, it's not rooted in Korean culture. But I think just for a young boy to be so involved in a lifestyle that he would only see on screen, I think it's very interesting that was his calling. I can relate to that heavily. Hip hop is rooted in American culture. As a Black American woman growing up, it's rooted in my culture. It's rooted in the schools that I went to. The students are talking about it. We're rating rappers, who's the best, who's the worst, who's your top three, who had the best rap of the year, like stuff like that. Like even down to the classes that we would take, we had music appreciation. Let me know if you had music appreciation and tell me what people you all discussed in your music appreciation classes, because for me and my school, we heavily discussed Black American influence on music, which it had a huge influence. If you don't know already, I love this topic. I love this topic so much because I feel like to grow up on that foundation, learning about it in school, picking up an instrument, coming home, hearing music, hearing what my parents listened to, knowing old school, knowing old school, Michael Jackson, The Temptations, Kool and the Gang. Like, from that foundation, having that foundation, it would make sense that I would have an appreciation for hip hop culture. But the fact that RM didn't have that foundation, yet he still found his love and admiration for hip hop culture. And the fact that BTS decided to emulate it and take on the culture, not in necessarily like a gimmicky way, because a lot of people do it in a way that it's just an era, or they're deemed the rapper of the group and they don't really come off genuine. It comes off gimmicky. Whereas when BTS did it, I can make an argument that it did look gimmicky, but I think when you learn more about their history and when you hear the music itself, take away from like the outfits and the performances and stuff like that, even the hair mistakes that were made, it truly does look like they respect the culture down to American hustle life, which I'm sure that this is mentioned in this book. Haven't gotten to that part yet, but just wanted to cut in and say that. Nowadays, you could kind of be flippant about it, not take it seriously, and just put on the mask of, oh, we're doing hip hop, oh, we're rapping. And I won't name any groups, but you know, you can tell when somebody's just doing something because they're told, all right, you need to be the rapper of the group. Just go ahead and do it, deliver it, give the gestures, do what they do, and imitate it enough so it's believable and go. And I can see right through it. I have no appreciation for it. It looks cheap. There were gimmicky moments, and I think that may be due to a lack of cultural understanding. There's a level of you want to encapsulate what you're seeing artists do without looking gimmicky, but I think because you're coming from a different culture, it can come off that way. Moving on back to J-Hope and his story. J-Hope was not a rapper, as I'm sure many of you already know. He was a dancer at heart. The way this man jumps into the company and learns how to rap, as of this Arirang comeback, RM gives J-Hope his flowers, because he was like, this dude learned how to rap from ground zero.
Me and Sugar, we started as a rapper, from the soul streets. He used to be a dancer. Yeah. My favorite rap verse from this whole album was like his verse from song called 2.0. You're a rapper, bro.
Yeah. Like, this man worked his butt off, and he is now a rapper. I'm gonna put that moment, if I can find it, I want to put that moment in here, because when he says that, after reading chapter 1, I'm like, yeah, J-Hope's a rapper. And I'm glad that we have J-Hope, because can we actually talk about the texture of his voice? I am like fanning out right now. The texture of J-Hope's voice adds so much dynamic to a song. It's not monotone, and I live for it because it just adds so much character and personality to his section of the song. So I personally feel like he adds so much to BTS's songs, and I am so happy that he's a rapper. Then Jungkook enters the chat. So this guy is truly golden, because he auditions for Superstar K3 and didn't necessarily want to even be a singer. And I quote, "It wasn't exactly a joke, but I wasn't worrying myself going, what if I fail?" either. For me, it's the confidence. Yeah, that confidence is crazy. And it's literally in everything that he does. I mean, he is literally truly a golden maknae. He said he was good at arts, he was good at sports, and he kind of was just like, I'm probably going to end up doing something in that. But then he magically becomes a singer. We saw him at that, I want to call it a field day and he did the track and he beat everyone. In that moment, we knew, like, the man, he can't fail at anything. He's really good at just everything he touches, everything he does. He is a golden maknae for sure. Okay, so then V comes in and he echoes a sentiment I've always felt about J-Hope, Suga, and RM. When he's coming in, he recalls that those three heavily influenced the music, especially in the early days. They are the logistics behind the music that we're hearing. V says, and I quote, "The three Hyungs were so good at music, so dedicated to their work, and they seemed like experts to me. I was just happy to be a trainee by their side," which I thought was amazing. I feel like V's mind is so interesting, and I can't wait to read the rest of this book because I always perceived V to be more fun and kind of like the mischief of the group, but like in a fun way. Just he's gonna do something outside of the box because he's just entertaining. But one thing I've learned about V, especially as he's gotten older and has spoken his mind more eloquently, V is truly introspective, and I really learned that a lot these past couple of months as he recalls spending time on Arirang and what music means to him and what music that he listens to. Next, we have Jimin. Jimin says he was convinced when he saw the Hyungs that they were going to debut as a hip-hop group, which I can see why he would think that, because J-Hope, Suga, and RM were 100% guaranteed to debut. If it wasn't said outwardly, it was very obvious. They were staples. He said that they looked like celebrities, especially RM. And Jimin was coming from Busan, just like Jungkook, and he specialized in contemporary dance in Busan High School of Art. So you have now two dancers in the group. And the thing about BTS, I think that works very well, is that they come from different backgrounds. They use that to their advantage, and you can actually see that in Black Swan. They use the disciplines of popping and contemporary, which was stated in the book. We find out that Jin was tricked into BTS. Jin laughs thinking back to his casting at Big Hit Entertainment in spring of 2011. What the worker in charge of signing him had promised him back then technically hasn't come to fruition. Jin continues. Look at how idols these days go into acting. We'll let you become an actor eventually. That's how they convinced me. So they told this man he was going to be an actor. Technically, they're not wrong. And he believed that too, because he was like, oh, of course, if I have notoriety, fame, it should be easy for me to shift into acting. Wrong. The man was busy. The man was busy with touring, and he could never really get into the acting field. As of yet, he still has time. So he'll eventually, I hope that he will eventually get into acting, because I know that's what he really wants to do. Next, the school of hip hop part. So RM, Suga, J-Hope would teach the vocalists about hip hop and the gestures. They would look at artists like Lil Wayne and A$AP Rocky. And V specifically says the hip hop line's teachings made him spiral off to become interested in finding more music. And he cites his favorite jazz artist to be Etta James, which, if you like hip hop, jazz is right there. That's pretty fundamental. I am not shocked that he is a jazz head. My favorite song is At Last. I feel like that is one of her most notable songs. So if you're not familiar, go check it out. Also, in this chapter, J-Hope is recalling that Suga and RM thought they would not be dancing, that they would be more like one TYM, and that they would just stand and rap with a little bit of choreographed movement, but like not what they do, or not what they did when they debuted. And it's funny because they actually ended up becoming an overperformance group. So in this book, I learned a new word, kalgunmu, which means in sync choreography. If you haven't watched a Bangtan Bomb, if you haven't watched a performance video, maybe you should. Because I feel like that would help you understand just how hard they work at the choreo. They definitely have that sharpness about them, but just the acrobatics. Now, there were groups before them that were doing acrobatics, and I'll list them here. I think that's why they were just going up from there. Then we talk a little bit about Neuron, because Neuron was actually J-Hope's dance crew. And ironically, his song released in 2024 coincides with the name of the dance team or dance crew, dance group. That group is so important because if it wasn't for them and his hyung named Bangster, he would not be in Big Hit because they had recommended he go audition. Some outtakes I want to point out that bothered me upon first read of this book in the first chapter. Here we go. Chapter 12, the QR code is broken. I tried to mess around with the URL to no avail. I could not get the original blog and I'm so upset. I wish the publishing company or Big Hit would have fixed that, especially when you're mass producing books. Another gripe with this book is that page 40 has a typo. It says Jim and I think they meant Jimin. Again, I feel like the publishing there was a little sloppy. Page 43, there's another typo. It says, it could be a big cringy. They meant it could be a bit cringy. A big cringy. And this is a 10-year record of BTS Beyond the Story official book, and you're making that kind of typo. I don't know if that looks good. All right, guys, so that's my recap for chapter 1. Let me know what you thought about chapter 1. What are your gripes? What did you learn? Yeah, let me know. And I will see you for recap of chapter 2. See you in the next one.